Damn. Beautiful.
Smooth as always. Ladies and gents, how we doing? Another nursing debriefing. More than halfway through our travel nursing contract here in San Diego. Soaking up the sun and soaking up those patients, right?
Man,
For the
awesome.
bed baths.
It's awesome. Dude. San Diego is so cool, man. I wish I could live here, but we're here temporarily. But maybe one day. But something cool that I learned, because I had 4 patients one day, is if you take a printer paper, if you don't have a report sheet, you could literally take, this blew my mind when I figured this out for myself.
Oh, I see it.
Dude, if you have 4 patients, you could take a report sheet and just fold it twice in half, and then in half again, and you have 4 little perfect squares for your report for each patient. You could then do it horizontally, so it's like the long ways. Blew my mind.
Life hack.
Dude, it's crazy. And I was like, wow, why haven't I doing this? 'Cause I've been trying to do like lines. Before I was doing lines for what,
That's how I started when I first became a nurse.
And it's like the first line was always the bigger than all the other lines. And it always pisses me off because my lines are, like, as you can see right here, the first one's always the nicest, and then it just goes shittier and shittier and shittier, So I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm just folded in 4s. So I think I just changed my life.
That's awesome.
This is going to save me, like, I want to say at least 8 minutes.
Nice.
Before and after shift at 16 total, bro. I'm basically taking a shot on company time right now.
Yeah, that's great. So going from the last debriefing, I finally had my moment working in the ICU after over 2 weeks, and damn, has it been a blessing. I truly did appreciate ICU after not being there for so long. I was so damn motivated. I was happy because I had only 1 patient, and it turns out that 1 patient is all I had for the entire shift. I was so damn happy for not getting an ER. I did all my meds, did all my charting, did my bad bath. By 8:47, 9 o'clock p.m., I was already on my phone, kind of hanging out and just monitoring my patient because he is sedated and intubated. Yeah. So that was a smooth experience. I was thankful after, how it goes after all that floating, man. Just such a break, such a relief. I had time to actually take out a notebook and write things down. Yeah. And yeah.
Smooth. I'm curious about the patient you had with encephalopathy, but I was in oncology for the first time ever, you could say. I floated there, and it was cool because I was a break nurse, and I haven't been a break nurse since our contract in, I think, Santa Monica, because Pasadena I was never a break nurse.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, so I've never been. So it was super nice. It was cool because if you're gonna ask me what would be the perfect kind of nursing, I'll probably have it be basically where you're doing these tasks and you don't have to worry about charting. You're just doing it, and it's something behind you charting for you or whatever, or not going to come complete. That's kind of how break nurse is you're just kind of floating around, breaking nurses, and you're just taking the tasks that they had to do while they're gone, and you're just doing it for them, basically. And it's so cool because you get to talk to each nurse. You have conversation with everybody. You could brighten someone's mood. You're always helping a nurse that's struggling, because you're not breaking, or if you are breaking and nothing to do, well, then you're breaking a nurse, watching her patients, but you're also helping out everybody else, because you technically don't have to chart anything. You don't have to chart the assessments. You just are there to help.
It's a good experience.
It's a super good experience. And I like that because it's more hands-on, more physical, and I'm around helping everybody versus just focusing on these 4 patients and just doing that. I'm focusing more on the nurses, but still providing the nursing care. So that was a really cool thing. But you had a patient with some kind of encephalopathy, right?
Yeah, it's nice taking away the charting component and just doing the damn patient care, and that's like ultimately what you went for school for. Yeah, you didn't go to school to chart.
Game changer, man. It's a game, and I like being a break nurse in Santa Monica. And when I saw break nurse on a board, I'm just like, I went to charge. I'm like, hey, what do I gotta do? Do I gotta do acute checks? Do I gotta do this? And she's like, okay, you could do this, and this. And I'm like, all right, for sure. Wrote down, did everything. Then just break nurses, and I was chilling. And it was so cool because you still get to interact with patients, but you know that you don't have to chart everything for them. Yeah, very cool.
Okay. So going back to the source. So I had a ETOH patient that had mucus plug, respiratory failure, ended up getting intubated, was confused as hell. Looks like they gave him some Haldol at night, became uptunded a little bit, hypercapnic, got intubated, and then just trying to figure out this poor guy's story, what's going on. And that's the benefit of having less patients and ultimately working ICU is you get to be this detective. So a lot of times I took care of alcoholic patients. We always hang a banana bag. We always gave them thiamine, folic acid, but never fully understood why. And this guy was a really bad alcoholic where he consumed a 6-pack and a bottle of wine a day. Damn. So what happened is we were giving him the thiamine replacement, but it looks like he developed vernix encephalopathy, which is a degenerative disease that happens from the lack of thiamine, vitamin B1. So this vitamin B1 is so crucial because it causes damage to the brain, the parts of the brain, the thalamus and the hypothalamus. Yeah. So it affects your functioning as like a human. And Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, because it's usually 2 words, is the other form of the syndrome that takes place from the vitamin B1 deficiency. And that one is almost like a form of dementia. So being depleted in vitamin B1, thiamine, it causes your damage to the nerve cells and the supporting cells of the brain and the spine. And you just have a memory disorder where you have no idea where you are. Damn. So imagine how much like worse your dementia or your delirium gets in the hospital. This guy has like end stage of it. So what's going on with this guy is they're thinking of, hey, he's already intubated. There's so much going on with him, multifactorial, where they're going to extubate, but there's an order for no reintubation. They'll see what happens. They don't want to pursue things and go for a trach.
No CPR or anything?
No CPR. They don't want to do trach. The family, I don't know why I get chills talking about this sometimes, but yeah, it's just messed up stories, right?
Because it's like, I get chills because it's like you're experiencing the end of life.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's
it for him, man. But I do respect the family and their decisions because this degenerative brain disease is so bad from alcohol abuse. Is like he has no idea where he is or what's happening or any mentation, and sometimes they get comas and all other things from this disorder. So why progress the inevitable? Like he's already feeling so bad, he's going to be trached, and what's going to happen then, right?
And it's like. That's like consciousness thing again, is how much of him is actually there. Is it just a body now at this point and doing just like its basic physiological processes? Or is there actual, you could say, deep cognition and thought and coherence of the situation?
Yeah, and that's that amazing podcast episode that we dove down the disorders of consciousness and talked about that, yeah.
It's crazy because you don't really know. You don't know. It's crazy to have a patient that's intubated and he's able to follow commands, squeeze your hands, pearls intact, all that stuff. He's ready to extubate, and he's still on a little bit of sedation. He's on a prop or whatever, fentanyl, but he's still communicating with you. You know he's there. RAS is like -2. And then when you extubate him and you see him the next day, you ask him these questions. You remember this? Remember this? They don't know anything. So it's like that's so crazy because you know exactly what happened in his life. But he does not know what happened in that time in his life.
Yeah, and even going into between those reintubations, because it only took 3 days, it's like he was confused. The nurses can't control him because he's going crazy, and he thinks like this is his home, and they give him Haldol, and back to square one, man, hypercapnic. So yeah, sad, man.
It's a trip, man. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Oh yeah, I had a patient in one of the floors I was working at, man. Everyone kept telling me, we're trying to get her CO2 now because she's hypercapnic. And like I'm reading through her chart and she has really bad COPD. So I'm like, why are they putting her on a BiPAP and trying to get rid of this hypercapnia if she has really bad COPD? Like she's naturally going to be hypercapnic.
Do you know what the number was, out of curiosity?
No, it wasn't anything wild. It wasn't real high.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was like,
it was her baseline.
Yeah. So I told the day shift nurse, I'm like, yeah, people are trying to get her hypercapnia down. She's completely with it. She's fine. She's completely there, able to eat, drink. She's completely fine, and they're trying to raise her, or not raise her, but drop her CO2, right? So it's like I'm thinking, I'm like, hey, maybe it's her baseline. Maybe you could pass that on because maybe you don't need to do all these extensive measures, and maybe we don't end up doing anything.
And that's like the worst thing that we see sometimes with BiPAP patients is, and I think she was in CPAP because I'm assuming you went to the floor. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just compare it to
BiPAP.
No. I'm just using the BiPAP. What is it called? Example. Mm-hmm. So it's like these patients maybe don't need it at one point, but if they do, they get agitated. We have to Ativan them. We restrain them on this BiPAP, and it's so uncomfortable getting air pushed into your mouth where eventually they get so like just out of it, lethargic, where we got to intubate them to protect their airway.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you got to remember that you have to take the whole patient into perspective sometimes, and especially when you've been working a lot over years, you get a little burnt out doing the same stuff over and over again. You get into this flow, you could say, but sometimes this flow makes you miss these little things like this, just because you're used to doing the standard, and it's great because you're doing a really good job. But sometimes we need to have like a little refresher, maybe just clear your mind. That way you could kind of be able to figure out these kind of things.
Yeah, this critical thinking that can ultimately help the patient tremendously.
Right. And that's why floating, I think, is cool, because you're going to pick up on certain things that other nurses might not, and you might help them out, and they might show you things that you might have not heard about. Then it's just a cool learning experience. So like you said before, it's just an experience, and just make the best of that experience, because that's the only time you're going to have that one experience.
Yeah, and Peter's referring to floating. So it sucks that we float, but no matter what, we have a positive attitude about it, and it's just an experience. There's no good and bad. There just is that experience that you learn from.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Another amazing nursing debriefment. Make sure to drop a comment, drop a like. Let us know what you feel. Peace out.